All right, so for this video, I kind of wanted to talk about or touch on the subject of psychic channeling, which I believe that this is a big new age deception, and I do think that psychic channeling and like less like mediumship, right? I believe is a form of possession, right? It's not an actual psychic ability like astral projection or remote viewing, right? It's something that is is very promoted within the new age. And I think that what this like psychic channeling thing does, is that it does open gateways to demonic entities, right? Because like basically what psychic channeling is that you're letting entities into your physical body and letting them speak through your physical body, which are like that by itself is textbook possession. But if you actually look at like the material, like what are these entities saying, like through these channelers, is that they're promoting a lot of the things that feed into this reincarnation matrix. They're feeding a lot into the works of the flesh, right? Like they're feeding into, like, oh, you need to pay back karmic debt. They're feeding into this idea that you're paying back karma for a previous lifetime. You need to learn lessons, right? Like you're here to complete a soul mission, right? And that you have to listen to your spirit guides, right? Like all of like the agenda that's behind these entities, right, is very much of the matrix. It's very much of this soul trap, right, where they're essentially deceiving people, right? They're fooling people into thinking, into buying into what this matrix wants them to buy into. And so I mean, if the like if the nature of the psychic channeling wasn't if that wasn't disturbing enough, that like people are letting entities inside them whenever they do these channeling sessions, if that isn't disturbing enough, to like look at the agenda that these entities are promoting. Look at the works of the flesh. You need to learn like the lushiness, right? Like the like you need to go through this suffering, go through these trials and tribulations in order to like pay back your karma, or in order to learn lessons for source, right? Like it's all of this very lushy, very of this soul trap. And so I just wanted to like talk about that, because basically it's almost like this is like the ultimate inversion of like psychic power, right? Because like psychic abilities like remote viewing, right, being able to look at distant locations, being able to see into the future, see into the past, being able to go out of body, right, these are real abilities, right? But then they invert that, and like this psychic channeling, this mediumship is basically like the opposite. It's like you're giving away your power to another entity and allowing them to inhabit your physical body, which is like that's the opposite of psychic power. That's psychic disempowerment. That's a disability, right? You're giving away your power to these other entities. And another thing that I wanted to touch on was that this idea that basically, like where do witches and warlocks get their power from, right? And if this is linked with psychic channeling, because basically what these like these practitioners of dark magic and these like witches and warlocks are doing is that they're essentially acquiring like a symbiote. If you know like what venom is, right? Like that black gooey like symbiote that latches onto a host, right? Like that's basically what these witches and warlocks are doing. So it's not they're not doing anything of their own power, right? They're doing something that is like they're doing the bidding of another entity that they've let into their physical body. And if you look at like the stories that involve like the symbiotes, it's like usually the host, it wants to do one thing, but then the symbiote wants to do another thing, and so like the host gets possessed, and then like they get like the healing powers, the super strength, right? All this other stuff that the symbiotes give them, but like they have no control over their body, and it's all the power of the symbiote. It's not the power of the host, right? So, and another thing that it makes me think of is like if you've ever seen this movie Shazam, right? If you know like Doctor Savannah gets like that eye, right? Like the one eye symbolism, you can see that in the movie. But he essentially acquires these magical powers from like the seven deadly sins, right? And like once all of like the seven sins leave his body, then he suddenly loses all his powers, and he like falls off a building, I think, in the movie, right? And so that's another thing that I think is linked with the psychic channeling sort of deception, is that this it's this idea that like you want to promote this idea that letting entities into your body it's somehow a good thing. You want, and through that, through like the psychic channeling and the mediumship, through the possession, right? Call it what it is, right? Then they promote the like all of the agendas of this reincarnation this reincarnation matrix. They promote all the Lucy stuff. The oh, you need suffering because suffering gives life meaning, which is not true, right? And they promote all that stuff through the psychic channeling. And then this is also linked with like where do witches and warlocks get their power, and like how do they cast curses and hexes onto other people? Is that psychic channeling is sort of like a gateway to essentially acquiring some sort of a symbiote, right? Just acquiring this sort of like a demonic parasite that just attaches onto you, and then it works through you to create chaos and destruction, which by having you give away all your power to just some random entity. And so I just wanted to talk about psychic channeling and symbiotes, I guess. But yeah, I mean that's a huge deception. That's a huge thing that people need to watch out for, is this idea that like psychic channeling and like acquiring some sort of like a symbiote, and like listening to all these like authority figures like spirit guides and guardian angels, and that you need to listen to them because you're just a human being and you're powerless, and it's just little me, right? You have all of that being contributed to this deception where they want people to give away their power and to let these entities into the door, into the house, right? They want people to open portals to let these entities into the physical realm, which is something that we should not be doing. We should be doing the opposite and telling them to get off of this plane, to get off of this plane of existence, because this is our domain. And so I think that the psychic channeling deception is very much linked with that, and I think that it is very much linked with where like witches and warlocks get their power from. So yeah, I just wanted to make a video about that and just sort of info dump about that. Yeah.